What I see as one of the biggest problems is people skipping steps, mandatory steps. They want to go and solve the big problems. Sure, if you can actually do that, it's going to be great because you're going to have to do a lot of progress and you're going to be able to do it if you solve the big problems first. It's a great strategy, but it doesn't always work. So when you find yourself not being able to fix the big problems, start small. Fix the small problems, do the mandatory work, learn the basics, and really move on to bigger and bigger and bigger problems. You have to understand that you need to really focus on each step individually so you have the basics down. Most people can't do that. Most people, they just want the big problems, the big rewards. They cannot understand that their level is so low that they cannot even reach for those problems. And that's where jealousy and competition and anger and frustration and all of these things appear, as opposed to really being able to have a healthy relationship with the task at hand, to actually be able to solve your own problems. It starts very small. When you cannot really deal with the big problems, you can see them, but you don't even know where to start. That's when you start small and you make a list of the things that you think are the necessary steps that you are not doing. Because if you are doing the necessary steps that you think are necessary and you still do them and nothing changes, that means those are not the necessary steps. You should go back to the drawing board and find out what you are not doing, what should be included. How can you make the pie better? How can you make the casserole better? What can you add? What can you subtract? What is necessary? Because you see, it is very difficult to make a pie without fruits, without flour, without water, without a kitchen, without a stove. You have to understand that that's the point. That's what people are trying to do. And there is a way you can just buy it, but you can't buy anything. It's like almost impossible to buy some things. And those things actually make people very jealous. Once you actually learn how to do certain individual things, certain people, if they value those things, but they've been banging their head against the wall and they see you do it flawlessly without any issues, they're going to be jealous. They're going to be competitive. They're going to be angry and frustrated, especially if they view you as lesser than. And once this happens, you can start to see the problems. You can actually identify what they are not doing that's actually hurting them the most and not really helping them progress. They're going to tell you, and they're going to come to you with this exact problem. It's like, how can you do this? How can you do this? And even if you tell them, they're not going to really do it. They are unable to do the necessary steps. Their mind, their behavior, everything in their being is fighting against it. Exactly the way that you fought against those things. But you see, all of these necessary requirements, all of these necessities really build a strong foundation towards everything that you want to do. You have to find out what are the first principles. I know, maddening. But if you don't have the basics right, the more complex the behaviors, the more complex the task, the more complex the problems, the harder it will be for you to solve. There are no magic pills. There are no shortcuts, except if you were lucky enough to be born with the ability to have those shortcuts. If you are lucky, sure, that's a big shortcut. If you can jump to big problems, if you natively are able to solve, I don't know, problems at level 10 as opposed to level 1, But sometimes when you move to level 15, even though you started at 10, you're going to find some problems that will force you to go back to square one, back to level one, and understand those things. And most people don't. Actually, being born with abilities far beyond other people might really make you skip some things that are very, very necessary in life. And you're gonna probably have to learn them further along the way. It was certainly the case for me. I had to learn some things that were not really passed on in my family, were not really explained properly. They weren't given any attention. And I had to learn them as an adult. But because I had to learn them as an adult, I have a deeper understanding than those who had it natively. And I can build more impressive structures upon that foundation. Those things can be socializing, those things can be your response to authority, those things can be all kinds of things. How to make money, how to deal with relationships, how to deal with drama, all of these things. If you don't have a strong foundation and you skip steps, they're going to bite you in the back so hard over and over and over again. And you're going to build more frustration, more anger, more bitterness, just because you don't take the time to solve the necessary steps, the necessary first levels to build a strong foundation. It is imperative to actually go back and revisit all of the things that you should have learned a long time ago and learn them now. Communicating skills, dealing with conflict, standing up for yourself, having courage, dealing with anxiety, understanding how to solve interpersonal conflicts, how to actually respond, having so many tools in your toolbox that you can deal with angry people, with frustrated people, with conflict, with all these things before you resort to anger, frustration, and violence. Sure, those things should be in your toolbox as well, but do not use them unless you are really, really put in the situation to do so. Because your ability to defer, your ability to avoid conflict as much as possible in a healthy way by just making a lot of space between you and the conflict, by having a lot of tools, your ability to do that will dictate so much of your results. Because life has many, many conflicts. And if you don't have enough tools to deal with those conflicts, and you don't develop strategies and systems to actually mitigate and avoid those conflicts as much as possible, you will just be in crisis mode over and over and over again. And that will hinder your ability to thrive, to actually succeed at the highest level.